All right. Let's get to our game of the week, Charlie.
Okay.
It was a pretty simple selection on the senior side of things this week because we finally had the 305 Derby back, or the Derby, as the Americans. Is it? Do we say no? The Americans say
I
Derby.
think they Derby.
We say Derby.
It's like Davenport and Devonport. You never know. You never know. You have to be guessing.
I've been here too long. But anyway, the 305 Derby, Miami Rugby against Miami Tridents, was back this past weekend. Unfortunately, it wasn't much of a matchup. But now Miami RFC have been having their struggles, which we'll find out in a little bit from head coach Luis Lucas with regards to fields, being able to get out there and practice and play games. So it was good to see them out at Rugby Fest last week with the team, and then great to see them back in the 15s side of things this week against the Miami Tridents. So let's bring in we only have one of our head coaches, right? So
we have one right now because the coach from he had already told us that he was going to be he's working right now, so he may still join us from his car, Dimitri.
Okay. All right. So we'll see if Dimitri can join us. But for now, we've got an apparent hostage situation here. Luis Lucas. Luis, we've got to work on your background, sir.
Trying to find a place where I can get decent internet connection and then decent lighting. So this is what you get.
I mean, you are in the 305. Charlie does remind us about how fun the internet connections there can be. Luis Lucas here. Luis, I was reading your rugby resume earlier today. It's a very impressive one.
Thank you.
I'm going to sign into my email account so I can pull it up here in a minute. But Luis played. You tell us a bit why you started playing rugby, Luis. Before I get to this.
Why did I start playing rugby?
Oh, where?
So my first ever practice was actually at the German American Club. I was playing for Miami Rugby, just practicing in that little field back there. But really got going in college at Columbia. Played for 3 years there. Kind of really fell in love with the sport. My best friend really turned me on to it, and then took off from there. Then started moving around and playing everywhere. Played in Denver, played in Virginia, played in Wisconsin, and then back here in Miami.
Yeah, all over the place. What did you major in at Columbia? That's a very it's not obviously a rugby powerhouse school, but it's a very academic powerhouse school. What did you major in there?
I was an economics and Hispanic studies major, so I did a little bit of finance after college.
Okay, good stuff.
Settled in academia.
Yes, you've toured all over the place. You had some great success with Wisconsin, Wisconsin RFC, with big powerhouse team up there. You got to the national final a couple of times, or 4 times, right? I think
we did three tours and 1 win.
That's good stuff. We've had a couple of Florida teams get that far over the years. It's been a little while. I know Palm Beach probably came close as recently as well as Fort Miami on the women's side. So let's talk about what we're doing at Miami RFC. Let's go back to the start of the pandemic, Luis, and sort of kind of fill us in what went wrong here in this season with Miami.
Nothing really went wrong at the beginning. We were actually pretty lucky to be able to get on to the German American Club and really just play touch and kind of hang out. It was a way to keep the team together, a little bit of camaraderie. But yeah, once we started sort of thinking about a season, we didn't really have many options for contact practice, actual rugby practice.
Okay.
We didn't really have the opportunity to get prepared up until maybe January. Late January was really when we started hitting and really get playing actual rugby. Still didn't really have a home field, so we reached out to the Tridents and they were incredibly great. And Jose was awesome and said, "Yeah, whatever you guys need, let's get you guys on our field." And so we were able to have the game this weekend on their field, thankfully. Yeah.
Oh, it's great to see. Now, obviously, you guys in the same city. Was it just a question of the parks that you were originally using wouldn't let you have contact? Because they obviously seem to be able to find. What was the difference between the 2 squads?
Ridiculous differences between the city of Miami and the county. Okay. Yeah, just little crap here and there. And then who and we didn't know the right people. Jose definitely did. And I think that really worked to his advantage and to their advantage. But ultimately, it also worked to our advantage because we wouldn't have been able to really get our season going. And we wouldn't have been able to start practicing without the backing of, I guess, the field permit and actual season getting going.
Yeah, I know there's been a number of teams out there that have really. I know SoFlo, RFC, another new team from South Florida. They're really having trouble finding fields just because it does help that when you're an existing club, it may give you an edge. But you've seen with you guys, it really hasn't helped, and that just being a new club has really been tough for them to get in with a city or a county as well. So you guys got going a little bit last week. Rugby Fest was the sort of first real competitive stuff you'd had?
It was a bit of a preseason. The only real preseason we had. It went how it should have gone. We had a lot of tired guys. That start-stop schedule for any sort of all-day tournament really kills a lot of folks. But yeah, had great competition. Started off the day well, and then met a really good Life team and a really good Naples team that played really well throughout the tournament. So it was I think good for the younger guys that were just coming onto the team and learning the sport and learning the quality of rugby in Florida, just to get a sense as to what they can expect in the 15th season that we're embarking on now.
For sure, yeah, getting a bit of a late start, but we're glad to see you getting involved on the 15 side of things. Tell us a little bit about how the club stands sort of personnel-wise. Have you lost a lot of guys due to the pandemic? I know Miami being a transient city,
we lost
so tourist heavy. I know things have been open here for a little while, but tell us how the roster's looking and some guys to perhaps watch out for the rest of the way.
We lost a few guys. I think early on. A few births, so obviously with young kids
right.
in the house, nobody was coming out, and it was just a stack of 4 guys all had kids within 2 months.
Oh, wow.
A little bit of the experienced core of the team took a step back there, but we've had a few young guys coming out. A guy that played really well yesterday on Saturday, Carlos, former FIU player and former Miami young guy. Coming out, really showing up and out of nowhere, middle of pandemic, and saying, "Hey, I want to play some rugby," and then that was really, really great to kind of get that. Few younger guys that also, again, a little bit of a lag there. We've had younger guys that played in that Miami youth side, those Miami youth sides from maybe a decade ago, that are now starting to come back into the fold. So pretty excited, and I think looking forward to build and replace a lot of those experienced heads that have slowly been trickling out of the team.
Now, I noticed some of the games you already had postponed with such a tight schedule. Is there any chance of getting those rescheduled, or are you just going to sort of play what you had in front of you from here on out?
Yeah, I think we're going to play what we have in front of us. I mean, we have Palm Beach on the 13th. That was a reschedule, and then I think we have the return for the Tridents on the 20th. We won't get to play Boca, unfortunately, before playoffs, whatever the playoff structure might be. But I think when we're done on the 20th of March. We only have really a couple of weeks before playoffs start. Didn't really make much sense to slot them in there.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, things are real tight on the men's side of things. Charlie posted the link if you want to join in towards the end of the pod and say what you have to say. I was telling Charlie earlier today. Yesterday was the first day I'd actually looked at the playoffs for any division. I actually looked at the high school situation because I was afraid if I looked at it too early, I would jinx the entire year because we've had so many games lost. Although the high school teams have done reasonably well. Obviously the kids. Some in school, some staying at home. They don't get out and about as much as the adults. But yeah, I'll have to check out what the playoff situation looks like for the men. As some teams, obviously, they've played a lot more games than others. Perhaps it's something we could have asked the FRU. But let's take a look at some highlights. Luis, if you want to walk us through some of these. I know as we see the finely shorn grass there at Athlete Range.
Honestly, it's the best that field's ever been lined.
But the grass is always very comfortable to land on.
This early in the first half, I think we held pretty well. I mean, Tridents were in our 22 for the bulk of the first 20 minutes, and only really came away from that with 6 points. So we held them well, especially the set piece. The scrum was really surprising how well some of the new guys slotted in. Guys that had really been on the machine for maybe a couple of weeks and hadn't really been doing a lot of live scrumming. But really, I think after that is when a little lack of experience, a little lack of fitness, and just the fact that Tridents have been playing and have been going for as long as they have really started to show. They were able to settle into the game and sort of take it over, mostly later in the first half, but really in the second half is when they broke through.
Yeah, there's really nothing like playing games to get your fitness level up. That's why we have as much. We have obviously a pretty long preseason here in the fall for teams to get ready for the league season. There's a face I recognize. Little Frenchie scored in the corner for the Tridents.
Yeah. For the most part, I think our backs handled their backs quite well. It just came down to just linking those last few plays. But it really, the fitness is what would hurt us in the second half. But I think guys also recognize the work that needs to be done in order for us to improve. And in 3 weeks' time, we see them again. So it really everything has to click over the next 3 weeks.
That's a good test to see how far you've come, in those 3 weeks. And you're practicing twice a week now on the Tridents field. How's the practice situation going?
we're able to practice now at the German American Club, which is it's nice. It's our home field, our home practice field. We have our grill there. It's for the camaraderie aspect and the club aspect. It's great.
Yeah, I know it's not the biggest field. But yeah,
it's not. But I think for what we needed, it really works. And I think starting contact 3 weeks ago, really getting everybody going into getting your body ready for contact was a bit of a struggle. But I think we made a lot of gains in those 3 weeks, and looking forward to see what those next 3 weeks will really prove.
Yeah, you're someone who likes to play on occasion, so you know how it goes when you haven't played for a while, and then you try to go out and play, and how you feel that next day.
Yeah, the thing is that when I play on occasion, I don't really rely on any sort of physical attributes. It's mostly just wily old man
Yes.
stuff, and just trying to cheat as much as possible. So,
Well, being a front row, you know how to do that.
I'm always thankful when you're on the field and always looking away.
Well, knowing how to cheat,
I expect.
Well, knowing how to cheat has helped you. You've been a referee recently, on and off, sort of over the last 2 or 3 years. When did you start refereeing?
2014. Yeah, so got going in 2014. I think one of those things where everybody just kept on saying can't continue complaining about the refs and not do anything about it. So I became a ref and continued. Now I have the right to complain about the refs all the time and give them a little crap. And I think a note about this game, I think Kai did a really great job in this game, and there were a lot of personalities on that field, and he did a great job of handling all of that.
Listen, Kai's one of our young and up-and-coming refs. He's been hit some of the 7th Circuit back last year when they were going, and just the more and more games he takes on, the more and more he'll get confident in the man management kind of things, which is sometimes one of those things when you're a younger referee that you don't initially have the grasp of early because you're not sure. You've been dealing with your teammates at the same age as you, and now you're trying to tell men what to do and what not to do. It can be very difficult, but Kai's picked it up very quickly. He's definitely one to keep an eye on. And we've obviously had a nice flow of referees come out of the state over the last 10 years or so, the likes of Haley Slaughter and Alex Weiner, Cisco Lopez, Khalil Harrison, etc., who we had on an episode back in the fall. And Kai Martinovic going to be one of those next young up-and-coming guys. Hopefully we'll see him on the MLR circuit or the 7th Circuit soon when things get going again.
Agreed.
But Luis, appreciate you joining us this evening. I mean, talk about the future of Miami Rugby. The numbers you said are looking good. Where do you see this team in a year or two? What do you see?
Be better.
I know you're sort of ref, coach, player. You're not so where you see yourself. Where do you see yourself on this team in a year or two?
I'm for right now. I'm just coaching. I'm not looking to put my boots back on. I ref occasionally when the standard needs to be brought up across the state. Making sure that everybody's happy.
That hasn't happened apparently. So you're good.
He's an Ivy League guy. I'm going to use that to promote him from now on. We got an Ivy League ref. Come on, listen. He knows what he's doing.
Don't tarnish the reputation of those great educational institutions. I don't represent them at all. No, I think I don't know what 2 years. I don't know what a year will look like. But I think getting a few of those younger guys is really motivating, and they're starting to talk amongst themselves and try to get essentially that generation of Miami players that really learned the game with a lot of those old boys and developed from a very young age, and then went on to FIU and all these other universities. They're starting to come back, and I think that's a little exciting, and we're starting to see the fruits of the work back then. But one of the more important things is obviously getting the not just those younger guys, but creating that pathway for new young kids to then eventually come back into the fold. So I think really getting that youth program developed again and working again is probably one of the bigger things that we'd like to incorporate into the Miami rugby culture.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we only have Key Biscayne as the only program in Dade County, which with as many people as there are in that county, there really should be more youth rugby being played there. Hopefully that'll happen over the next year or two. And I do want to say big thanks to the Tridents. You mentioned Luis stepping up. I don't think that would have happened perhaps 10, 15 years ago, but it's good to see that culture really changing between the two sides. So Luis, thanks for joining us this evening. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks.
Thank you, man.
Guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Well, Miami RFC wins the podcast battle because Dimitri hasn't shown up. So Miami RFC are the winners in my eyes this weekend.
Well, to be fair, he had told us that it was going to be tough. He's in real estate, and you know how those things go. Sometimes they drag on.
It's Miami. It's probably a busy night for real estate in Miami. He probably starts getting busy at midnight. Just getting up to start his workday in Miami. I remember I used to